The day has arrived. One UI 7 is here on my Galaxy S24 Ultra. Now that we have One UI 7, we need to see what is different compared to One UI 6.1.1 effectively, even though this says 0.1. So let's compare everything we can to show the difference between these two phones. Welcome back to SamMobile TV. You're here with Daniel. In front of me, I have the Galaxy S24 running One UI 6.1.1 and the Galaxy S24 Ultra running One UI 7. It's a big update. We've got another video just diving deep hands-on into all of the changes, both visual and interaction and features-wise, and the camera. So here, I want to actually just compare them side by side. So you get a bit of a feel for what you're getting from this versus what you're going to get from this. Starting with just the visual aesthetic of it, you can see immediately the icons are different, like the phone dialer, different, Galaxy Store, different, internet, different, gallery icon, different. But it's not just the design of the apps, it's when you go into them. So in the gallery, for example, you can see now the, functions have an icon to go with them as opposed to just the name. So pictures has a picture, albums has an album, stories, and menu. They've all got more than just the word. They have a visual aligned with it. Other apps too, like the phone dialer, it seems to be Samsung's aesthetic at the moment is to add in an icon to go with the word, which I think is a nice touch. It gives it that bit of a visual refresh. Part of that visual refresh as well is widgets. So Samsung's widget design has also changed. So before, you could see when you swipe through, the outline was the widget card. Whereas now, Samsung seem to have kind of adopted Google's widget style, as you can see. If I go in and add the note widget, so it can sort of align with that, you'll see it's not going to be as visually striking as what this one is. You can already see that difference if I drag them next to each other. That's got a lot better visuals. It's got color, it's bright. It also doesn't take up as much space. So even you can't change that size. So it's just a better visual look about the widgets. They now kind of pop and vibrate on the screen. You also can notice the battery icon. You've now got the percentage sitting inside of the, battery indicator as opposed to separate. Probably just keeps it a bit cleaner in that top corner, doesn't take up as much space, and makes use of the space better as well. Now, the other part to the visual aesthetic is how it looks and how you interact with it. So the quick panel has been completely redesigned. Not completely. Samsung have just kind of further refined what they'd already created. So on the One UI 6.1.1, swipe down from the left, brought down the mini quick panel and all your notifications. A double swipe down brings down the expanded quick panel. And then if you go from the right corner, top right corner, which I haven't got set up, it would bring down the expanded quick panel in one, or a double finger swipe down from the top would do that as well. On One UI 7, what's happened is a swipe down anywhere will bring down notifications. There's two ways to access the quick panel. You can swipe to the right and it'll bring it up, swipe to the left rather, or from the top right corner, bring it down. And in the other video, I showed how you could customize this. So you can press the edit and you can drag and drop things as you sort of need them, depending on how far you want to go for reachability. This new quick panel option allows you to expand the extra sort of icons, and that you can still kind of swipe between notifications and quick panel depending on how you want to use it. The other part to that is that Samsung have kind of further refined interactivity with the app drawer. So swipe up on the app drawer, you'll see how different it is. Not in a sense of the icons, they're still kind of arranged in a similar way, but you can see the search bars at the top here versus down the bottom, making it immediately easier to jump into search with one hand. And rather than a swipe left and right to access your apps, it's just a vertical app drawer now. So that could be, okay, depending on how you like to use your phone. I've gotten so used to having it like this because it was different, but Samsung have seen it fit now to go and adopt, the other Android OEMs style to have that vertical stack. It might just make it easier for animations and cycling through things because they don't need to store different visual cards. Everything's just kind of in one sort of long swipe. And you can also easily go up and down via letters and alphabetical stuff should you need to. Also, what's different, I guess, from a visual aesthetic point of view is the task changer. It's now kind of stacked on top of each other, which if you've been a good lock user, you can already sort of adopt this style. But if you just prefer the native stuff, it's now a bit more of a, I guess, visual design. Functionally, it still performs the same. Swiping down brings the app back. Swiping left and right will change the cards, and swiping up dismisses them. So functionally, that hasn't really changed, but there's at least that. Now I want to get onto the lock screen, because I guess from an always on display perspective, it still looks very similar, but there is some differences. So the first one you notice is that there's this thing here called a now bar. If I click on that, it sort of expands, and depending on the activity that's there will depend on what happens. So at the moment it's music, so I can then control music. And what's really cool is this sort of shrinks down and becomes part of the always on display should you want it. And then a double press can sort of control it. Now, what I showed off in the hands-on video is that the now bar can be customized. So if I go into lock screen and AOD, I can go into now bar, and you can see the live notifications that you can implement. Samsung with One UI 6 kind of brought in the little card for phone calls, whereas that's now being adopted for a lot more apps. So I showed off in the other video the clock. So if I go into clock and resume the stopwatch, you'll see at the top there the stopwatch icon, and I can expand that out like a live activity. Wonder where that's from. This can't do that, and then this also can't do this. So you can't see it on the lock screen and expand it out to sort of be able to control it from this little one-handed spot. I love that it's always on display. I think that is a genius move from Samsung. And the fact you can control it too. What's next is we have the camera. So if I launch the camera on both here, try and launch the camera on both, Daniel, would help. You can see immediately where the redesign is. So the photo modes now sit underneath the camera shutter. Again, I think making it easier to control one-handed, because you naturally might be down there anyway. And then above that is the zoom. It's kind of shifted the viewfinder up and shifted some stuff down. So rather than this being in the way, because at the moment, when you're taking a photo, the zoom control impacts the visual on the photo. Whereas now, sitting underneath, it's actually not going to impact on your photo and intrude on it when you're trying to take something. All of the controls that sit up the top here in One UI 6.1.1 now sit inside this little, I guess, 4-dot menu that you can press, and then it swipes out certain things. The other thing that's new as well is there's this now dedicated exposure slider for the whole image, whereas that is nowhere to be seen in One UI 6.1.1. If I swipe into the More section, that is where you notice some more differences. The More tab, again, has sort of gone back to that ethos of one-handed usage, where everything is within one-handed reach or one finger reach, whereas here you kind of have to climb up a bit around the phone to access. Samsung have put a lot of interactivity thought into this, and I'm glad they did. Outside of that, though, the camera changes in terms of aesthetic are minimal, or in terms of functions. The only other thing that's different is the best shot, or the shot suggestions, now has a bit of a new design as well. You can see it's more of a target, whereas before it was like a circle that you had to sort of go into. Now, look, I could do a camera comparison, but these two phones are not the same. So there's really no point in doing that, because I don't know if Samsung will change too much of the output. I'd need another S24 Ultra next to each other to be able to do that comparison. But at least from a, I guess, aesthetic point of view and a function point of view, it should become a lot easier to operate because of the more one-handed approach Samsung have taken. Now, the last thing I guess a lot of people will want to know is animations. What is the difference? What is the fluidity going to look like? Now, look, from the naked eye, it's going to be really hard to tell that. Having 120 Hz displays kind of, I guess, makes it hard or indiscernible to the naked eye to really see. Like, even if I've got these two up now, it's really hard to sort of notice. But what I will do is I'll do a couple now. I'll make sure they're slowed down in editing so you can see. So let's take a look. can also do a faster one just to sort of really get people to have a look at it. That was cool. Can do that on S24 anyway. So from an animation standpoint, at least in this first beta that I'm testing, doesn't seem to be anything that's too crazy different. There's just maybe an overall sense that it's more fluid. And I think a lot of the newer functions, like this thing here that allows you to expand out, has some nice animations to it, but I expect it to be refined the longer the beta goes on, and especially when S25 drops, those animations will be tight. But at least for now, you can see there's not much of a difference. And to be honest, One UI 6.1.1 does a very good job. So there sort of, I guess, some differences between One UI 6.1.1 and One UI 7. Might not be as big an update as you might have expected. I think the biggest thing comes from the subtle interaction changes that Samsung have made. The fact the notification panel and the quick panel are now separate, because I think that has definitely made a massive change to how we're used to doing things. Myself, as a Samsung user, I'm so used to having quick access to that stuff there. However, when I really think about it, if I need to change a toggle, I'm usually always in the expanded mode. So the fact that I normally would do a 2 swipe down anyway, I don't think it's any different than swiping down and then across. So for me, that is pretty much the same thing. And at least here, everything kind of can be customized in the order that you need it to. And then you've got the long form expanded. This is going to be a change. Swiping down instead of across to access apps. I'm sure I'll get used to it. It's just going to be an adjustment, but I do like the fact the search bar is a little bit more accessible. We're going to spend some more time with One UI 7 and we'll report back on our findings as we go. Make sure you go to our website to see all of the One UI 7 news that you could want, especially on how to get the beta and if you're eligible in the country that you live in. Outside of that, hit subscribe to SamMobile TV because we'll have more One UI 7 coverage. See you guys next time. Thanks.